Hi, I'm Jade,
I'm Anetta.
and this is Boo You Gore.
What do you have for us today?
So today on this spooky little...
Wait. First of all, how the fuck have you been?
Right, it's been forever. So even though you guys get episodes every 2 weeks, doesn't mean we actually get to see each other every 2 weeks.
And we had to record today because it's Friday the freaking 13th.
Exactly. And
that's pretty close to absolutely.
I know, I was like, exactly.
Let's see how many times we can catch you out. We need to whiteboard mark.
I was going to say we should have a tally and then we can work out by the end of the episode if you're going to be drunk or slightly tipsy.
I'm gonna get a whiteboard or something.
It's funny, I listen back to our episodes sometimes and you hear the amount of times that I go,
I try to cut it out. It's so hard. Because then it cuts off. If I cut off that bit, sometimes it cuts into the first part of the word.
Yeah, I notice it so bad. I'll be driving along listening to the episode and I'm just chuckling to myself because I'm like, you nearly did it.
Yeah.
You nearly did it.
And it's funny because I wonder what other people will pick on. Because obviously when I listen to it, I pick on myself a lot.
Yeah.
You pick on yourself a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously your friends pick on you.
Yeah.
Whether they notice anything about me, just don't tell you.
I was going to say they haven't said anything yet.
Yeah.
But my friends are really good at picking on me. So
because no one's giving me shit about anything other than my mum. But I
won't. Well, I have another local one for you today.
Local shit.
I do.
Just to give you an FYI, we're going to do Ted Bundy. Ted frickin' Bundy as well. Not this episode, but the next one. Just so you know, we are venturing out of Australia eventually.
And the next one that I've done... So as you guys would have worked out by now, we do some cases together, we do some cases separately, just so there's a bit of variety.
Yeah. So
the next one that I've done, just me, I made sure I picked something out of the country. Yeah. But then I have all these other ideas and they just bring me straight back to Australia. So
it's just so interesting because it's so right in your backyard.
Yep, so much. But I think because we all know how much I just love and adore Salem. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking I might do something from Salem at some point.
You love your little witchy.
I do.
Witchy poos.
Love my little...
That's why our skeleton is wearing a witchy hat.
Yes, and has a broom.
I've taken some photos of our little podcast area. I think I might post that on the Instagram.
Because it looks so good in here. You've done such a good job.
I still need to paint the walls and obviously
is that the tally so far of my absolutelys? Give it that real authentic spooky feel.
I won't post the other side of the room, which has stacks of boxes and bikes and shit.
But this side's super cute, so that's all they need to see.
So I'll post that so you can see where we sit, where we chill.
Nice. So today I am going to talk about an urban legend from Kapunda.
Nice.
So a lot of... anyone who's had any interest in the spooky and who has been to Kapunda would know this story. It's very... I'm having a moment because I'm trying not to just read straight off of the thing.
Yeah, no, you're all right.
So, if you're familiar with Kapunda, you're familiar with the fact that it's incredibly haunted. There's, like I said in one of the other episodes, we could probably do 50 episodes on Kapunda and still not touch on everything.
Still not cover anything.
Exactly.
I personally have had experiences there.
Yeah, and one of the biggest urban legends that I came across in Kapunda was, aside from the Kapunda North Hotel, you had St. John's Cemetery. Everyone used to go out there and visit when the Reformatory was there. It was a dilapidated old ruins, and everyone used to go out there and run amok and graffiti it and climb on walls and do stupid shit. Yeah.
Sorry. Amok. That's all I
amok. So they ended up pulling the Reformatory down because of the damage that was done to it by the public. So in this today, I'm going to go through the Reformatory, the building of the Reformatory, what it was, what it ended up being, why it ended up closing.
This is going to be my English is my second language moment. What's a reformatory? Is that like a school?
Yeah, so it's a place where you send the naughty kids to be made better. But the Reformatory was originally a Catholic church. So in 1849, the Catholic Church would send Father Fallon to Kapunda to oversee the building of the first Catholic church in the small mining town.
So is that like bless it kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah. So he would oversee building it and finding the property for it and everything else. And
like the planning of
it. Yeah, and
Prime
he would
location.
like have his little congregation there and basically brought the Catholic Church into Kapunda. So the place that he settled on was about 1.5 kilometers out of town, basically in the middle of a big empty paddock, and that was all that was there was the church once it was eventually built. So in 1850, the foundation stone was laid. So the first stone was laid for the building, and the church would be named the Church of St. John the Evangelist, later shortened to St. John's. So the building, while normally would take a year to be built, once the foundation stone had been laid, the Victorian gold strike happened. So all of the builders who were on site to build the church legged it to Ballarat in hopes of finding big chunks of gold and becoming rich. So the church sat there for a few years, nothing happened.
Not finished.
Yep. So what normally would have taken a year ended up taking 4 because they had to wait for everybody to come back after trying to strike it rich in Ballarat.
Welcome to building a house in Australia.
Yeah, not much has changed.
Wow. 4 years.
Yeah, and they just literally put down tools and went
to get gold, make more money.
And when they would come back, some of the guys who had built it stated that their hammer was where they'd left it 4 years ago. They literally just down tools and left.
Did not even try and get anyone else to try and finish it.
Yep. So it just sat there.
For 4 years. God.
So right from the very start, there was trouble with the building. So not only
cursed, if you will.
Yes. It copped the Kapunda curse.
Maybe someone hexed it.
Well, Kapunda's not far from Lyndoch, and the time is right. 84 was the same year.
Wow, maybe. Maybe fucking, farms are being hexed.
Someone pissed off Marianne.
Bloody Mary.
So
Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary. Wow.
Maybe that's where it came from.
Yeah, there was no thing. It was just a bunch of Australians just sitting around going, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, she's a witch.
Good one to look into.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound spooky when you say it Australian. Like in America, they do the Bloody Mary, and in Australia, it's just like Bloody Mary.
Just sounds like a curse in it, like Bloody Mary.
So trouble surrounded the church from the very beginning, with not only the delay in building, the position where the church was built was an absolutely stupid location. So there was a river that flows through the edge of Kapunda, and in the wet season that would rise that high that parishioners couldn't attend the church.
So like flood it in a way.
Yeah, so they couldn't get through. So they would then start looking for a second location to build the church closer into town. Father Fallon would die of apoplexy, which is a heart condition, 6 short years into residing over the church. So from the time he got there in, was it 1849? He died in, you think I would have written the year down, wouldn't you?
That's okay.
1855. So 6 short years after heading into Kapunda to reside over the church, sadly Father Fallon would die of apoplexy. So 1 year into the St. John's site actually standing, he passed away.
Definitely cursed.
Yeah. So upon his death, it was discovered that Father Fallon.
I just think of Jimmy Fallon. Sorry.
Was over £300 in debt to creditors, which equates to around 28,000 today. So over the next 8 years, 3 more ordained priests would die while looking over the presbytery that would go on to become the Reformatory.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So everyone that came after just kept dying.
Reverend Michael Ryan died in 1865. Father Jeremiah Moynihan died in 1867. And Father Hayrick died in 1868. So all died of natural causes. However, they all died very suddenly and without warning.
Oh.
Yeah. In 1860, Reverend Michael Ryan, who took over the parish after Father Fallon, spent his time looking for a secondary site on the other side of the river to counter the flooding issue. This would be located to the east of a mine owned by, are you ready?
What?
Dr. Blood.
Dr. Blood?
Dr. Blood owned the mine.
Dr. Blood? Is this like a vampire that's like, this is going to be hilarious if I name myself this?
When I read it, I was like, could there be a more perfect name?
For
Dr. Blood.
Dr. Death.
So that secondary location would be known as St. Rose of Lima. So building started for that on the 13th of July in 1862, with services starting there on February the 8th, 1863, leaving the St. John's building completely unused.
So is this the secondary
Yep,
Yeah,
secondary
So
location.
what happened to the first building?
So the original one was only used for, 6 years as a church. So it took 4 years to build and was only used for 6 years and then just sat there empty. So unfortunately, during this time, Reverend Ryan was in and out of court over shortcomings in the performance of the contract to build the church and over the debt incurred by Father Fallon. This took a toll on his health and he died shortly after the completion of the St. Rose Church. So that's 2 priests that have built churches and died within a year of them being built. So in 1897, Adelaide Archbishop O'Reilly requested that Mary MacKillop supervise renovations at St. John's. These renovations would take 3 months and would see the site become St. John's Reformatory for Girls.
That makes you think though, what? Because obviously back then they wouldn't have cared what was in the dirt.
Yeah.
When building there, they wouldn't care what was on that land.
Yep.
So it makes you wonder what they built those churches on top of. What's in Kapunda area?
Yeah.
That does not like people being there. Does not like anything being there.
And it's a mining town, so it's probably whatever. I've never actually looked into what they mine out there, but it's probably whatever they're mining there that messes with the magnetic fields and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna Google this.
Yeah, see what they mine there.
Good old Google. Google is your friend. Do they mine in Kapunda? That is not how you spell Kapunda. Copper ore.
Well, there you go. And copper's a conductor.
So. Interesting. Australia's copper mining history and lays claim to not only being the first established profitably operating copper mine, but also being the saviour of South Australia's financial woes in the 1840s.
Wow.
Did not know that.
Well, there you go. Thanks, Kapunda. So during the 1860s, Mary MacKillop and the Sisters of St. Joseph's would conduct a day school at the St. John's site. In 1881, the local school was erected and all students would be transferred there. This resulted in the closure of St. John's Day School. Reopened again in the 1860s, closed again in 1881. So it was in an empty building again.
So that whole period, it was like a girls' school. So it wasn't yet like a full...
No, so from 1860 to 1881, it was just a school. So that was where all kids, boys and girls, would go. Oh, it wasn't just
a girls' school.
No.
It was, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm struggling so hard today. So in 1897, Adelaide Archbishop O'Reilly requested that Mary MacKillop supervise renovations at St. John's. So these renovations would take 3 months to be completed and would see the site now officially become the Reformatory School for Girls.
Yeah.
So the Reformatory would be under the charge of the state's Children Council, who would provide financial assistance to the site. So basically like DCP. Yeah. Okay. So they funded the girls going there and being looked after.
And they're all,
Yep.
all the naughty.
Yep. So, but back then, I tried to find what girls would be sent there for.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anything anywhere.
Yeah.
It could have just been for being sassy. It would have been the same as asylums at the time. Normal everyday behaviour now.
Just didn't want to look after them, so just sent them off.
That's it. Orphans, all sorts.
Didn't have anywhere else to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
So right from the beginning, the girls would appear to be very hard work for the sisters. Over 120 troubled girls would pass through the doors in its time. There would be many escapes throughout the years, with the girls being known to cut the phone line before escaping. The phone line ran directly to Kapunda Police Station. This would buy them a much-needed head start. So eventually the sisters deemed it necessary to renovate the site once more, this time adding 2 cells as a deterrent to the chaotic behaviour. It obviously became what's the bloody word? Like a punishment place very quickly.
Turned into like almost prison.
Yeah.
As opposed to a school with like desks and shit. It had
That's
cells.
It. Yeah, they chucked cells in there. So despite the rumours and stories that have surrounded the Reformatory over the years, there were 0 deaths ever recorded on site. On site being the standout words. So this leads me to the urban legend that anyone familiar with St. John's knows about. The story of 18-year-old Ruby Bland. So if you've ever been to the cemetery or were lucky enough to visit the Reformatory while it still stood, you would have definitely heard the story of Ruby. Ruby's story is a truly sad case where the truth, although definitely covered up and missing details, is most certainly stranger than the fiction. So over the years, the Chinese whispers of it all would see the details vary depending on who told the story. But the version of Ruby's story that I've heard is that if you attended St. John's Cemetery at night, you'll catch a glimpse of a young, dark-haired girl in a white dress walking the perimeter of the fence, looking for her lost baby. Countless times we'd go out there, you'd always sit really, really quiet and wait for Ruby to come out and look for her baby. Never saw anything. Saw other things there, but never saw Ruby. So the story was that she was molested by the priest, got pregnant, they performed an illegal abortion at the reformatory, and she died during the abortion. So that was the Chinese whispers, the story that everyone heard. And
she's looking for a baby.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. So when you attend St. John's Cemetery, you're greeted with a sign in memory of the babies who have all been buried along the fence line. So it's easy to see how this story is manifested over time. So it would have been stillborns, families who didn't have the money to do a proper burial. And there's literally like a memorial sign for them as you walk in. All around the fence line of the cemetery are unmarked graves of infants. Families who couldn't afford funerals. It could have been babies that were left at hospitals, like who knows.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like a sign acknowledging that it's definitely a thing there. Wow. So yeah, when you see that sign, it's easy to see how everyone sort of put two and two together. Like there's, a girl and there was a reformatory and there was a priest and there was babies. Yeah. And you can see where the story would have come from.
And I bet she's got a long flowing dress.
Yeah. And shiny hair. Everywhere has a dark-haired girl in a white dress. mining. She was in the right place for mining. Pining and mourning over a child. However, according to both hospital records and her death certificate, this story is far from the truth. So, records from Kapunda Hospital show that on November 15th, 1909, 18-year-old Ruby Bland would be admitted to hospital with stones in her bile duct. So, gallstones. 13 days later, Ruby would die in Kapunda Hospital while on the operating table. While this all seems fairly straightforward, the deeper you look into it, the more interesting the story gets. When checked into hospital, Ruby was registered as Catholic of no fixed address, despite currently being an inmate at St. John's Reformatory for Girls, only a few kilometres away. So the fact that they're even called inmates shows that it was more of a prison thing than, because they didn't say she was a guest of or a resident of. She was an inmate. But when they checked her in, they said that she was Catholic and that she had no fixed address. So she was living on the streets. So Ruby's next of kin was listed as Elizabeth Pens of Renmark. Now, she was Ruby's older sister. There was no mention at all anywhere of Ruby's parents, whether they're alive, what had happened, so I don't know why her sister was her next of kin. But 5 days before her death, Monsignor George William of St. Rose Church in Kapunda, so the church that replaced St. John's, would attend the hospital and conditionally baptise Ruby. So basically gave her last rites, and as a baptism would see that she would reach heaven when she passed. But remember, when she was registered, she was already registered as being Catholic, so there's no need to conditionally baptise her because she's already baptised.
So she won't. Yeah.
Yep. So as she was an inmate at St. John's and registered Catholic upon hospital admission, it seems like an unnecessary action. She most certainly would have been baptised, so why was her current baptism listed as conditional? Ruby's death certificate states that she died from, I can never say this word properly, which is really shit considering I've had it myself, but cholelithiasis, post-operative shock. She had gallstones, and they're saying she went into shock from having her gallbladder removed.
Oh.
So this was later amended, and in a different pen, so on her death certificate, in a different pen, the words 5 years were added, suggesting she had suffered from this condition for 5 years since she was 13 years old. So even by today's standards, this condition is rare in children, and it usually coincides with high-fat diets, something that wasn't an issue in 1909. So them saying that she had gallstones at 18 and had them since 13 just doesn't add up. Yeah. It's not impossible, but it would be incredibly rare. So common opinion seems to be that perhaps Ruby was suffering from some kind of trauma caused by a beating sustained at the reformatory, and it was being kept quiet to save the reputation of the establishment. There is also many rumours of it being an ectopic pregnancy.
Shit.
Yeah. So there was never an autopsy performed on Ruby, and she was buried in an unmarked grave at St. John's Cemetery within 24 hours of her passing, leaving no time for her sister to claim the body. In fact, leaving no time for her sister to even be informed that she died before she was buried. So it sounds kind of off, right?
Yeah, like they were just trying to cover it quickly.
Yep. Here's a breakdown of the timeline. November 15th, 1909, Ruby is admitted to hospital. The reformatory is running as normal, full and thriving. Ruby is registered as no fixed address, removing connection to the reformatory. On November 28th, 1909, 18-year-old Ruby passes away under suspicious conditions. On November 29th, 1909, St. John's Reformatory for Girls closed its doors permanently, with all current inmates to be moved to a similar facility in Burra, South Australia. Nothing sus at all. Because when have you ever heard of a government facility closing overnight?
Literally. So what has happened?
So there were many stories of the resident chaplain in the reformatory actually being abusive towards the girls, both physically and sexually. The Catholic Church and the state's Children Council have both admitted that they were aware of this. So the priest was raping the girls. They absolutely could not risk the news getting out that a young girl had died from injuries sustained there. The damage, the embarrassment, it was better for everyone that Ruby just vanished. Kind of iconic that they did everything they could to make sure no one knew about her.
And now
And 150 years later, we're still talking about her. So thankfully, rumour mills would make sure that she would be the most well-known name of any inmate to have ever walked through the doors, second only to Mary MacKillop herself. Following a TV series in 2001 showcasing Kapunda as one of Australia's most haunted towns, creeps like us flocked to what was left of the crumbling St. John's Reformatory. Unfortunately, this resulted in vandalism and destruction at the cemetery, and what remained of the building to be completely demolished due to safety concerns for the public. All that remains is a large palm tree where the building used to stand. So despite much time searching records, there is no grave number listed anywhere for Ruby. Even a pauper's burial would have had to have had a plot number. So they were really trying to make sure no one ever found her. So
they couldn't dig her back up and do an autopsy.
Exactly.
Or even on the bones, surely there's stuff you can still find after so long.
Yep. And surely they would be able to see, like, if she had been beaten, if she had a broken bone, there'd be signs. That's
like
it.
That, yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, you're right. So, in my opinion, it points even more to the fact that it's a cover-up and less to the theory that her sister didn't want to claim her because she didn't even know she'd passed. Yeah. So they say they buried her straight away because her sister refused to claim her, but her sister didn't know about it. Yep. So in 2002, St. John's historian Peter Swan believes he found the location of her burial site and erected a beautiful memorial for her, complete with cast iron fencing and a cross. And there is much speculation over whether this is in fact where she's laid to rest. However, we do know she's in the cemetery somewhere. So if you've ever, we'll absolutely go out there. But there's, I just got a strike. Her grave has like this green cast iron fence around it. Everyone goes out and puts flowers there and hangs like ruby-looking necklaces. And so considering they wanted to hide her so badly, she's like celebrity there.
In that area.
Yep.
I don't know why. I'm very silent today. And just taking it in because I'm I guess this is making me so speechless that shit happened. It's infuriating.
And it would have been so easy to cover back then, and there's no way they would have ever thought that 150 years later we're still talking about this. So people still flock out there and leave flowers and other offerings on her grave, hoping to catch a glimpse of the sad girl in the white gown. So I've attended the cemetery many, many times, like I said before.
You?
Yeah. I've never seen her. We went out there one day and I was doing a photo shoot of a friend of mine. We'd actually pierced her back with feathers. So she had this big wings on her back on both sides and they were piercing. So we'd done 36 piercings on each side and she had all these big feathers sticking out of her back. So we're doing a photo shoot out there. And I think one of the coolest experiences I'd ever had, we're out there taking photos and every time I took a photo near the priest's grave, there was orbs in the photos, no matter what side I took them from. And then I was taking photos of her against this fence at one point, and I'd stepped back, and I'm always super respectful when I'm at cemeteries. I won't walk on graves. If I'm walking somewhere where I think there might be an unmarked grave, I'm always like, I'm really sorry if I'm walking over you. But I'd step back to take the photo, and I stepped on a grave. And when I went back to look at the photos, there was all these slashes through the center of the photos, like bright slashes straight through them. I then realized I was standing on the grave and I looked to read the headstone because, wanted to apologize. And I can't remember his name, but it said on there that he was a 15-year-old boy who died being struck by lightning. And there was these slashes all over the photos. I'll see if I can find them. We can upload them.
Slashes that look like
lightning strikes.
Lightning strikes.
Yeah,
that's trippy.
Big yellow, crinkly slashes through the photos.
Wow.
And they were the only ones that turned out like that.
When so we're even in that specific spot.
Yeah. And when I flicked back, obviously on a digital camera, and I was flicking back, you could see them in the camera. It wasn't only when they were printed, you could see them clear as day. So, like, we tested so many theories. I got her to stay in the same spot. I took photos from around it. I stepped off of the grave, took photos. Nowhere else in that position was I still getting those slashes. So it's not a light anomaly. It's nothing. It was purely when I was standing on his grave.
Wow.
I got flashes across the photo. And yeah, orbs on the... Because as you walk in, there's a big monument for all the priests, because even though one of them wasn't buried, so the first one, Father Fallon, so he wasn't buried in St. John's Cemetery originally, but later they dug him up and moved him to St. John's. So they're all there now, and there's like a big memorial for them. It's like one memorial for all of them, and yeah, it
does it include?
was really, really
so
cool.
Obviously, the first one he wasn't bad. The second one wasn't, bad. So do they have those ones buried in the same spot that they do the one that?
Yeah.
Really?
If I remember correctly, there's 4 or 5 of them on this
So they kept on
memorial. Yeah. But I've also heard stories out there of a man who'd hung himself in the tree out there, and that if you're out there at night, you can hear the tree creaking where the rope would be swinging. There's so many stories of the St. John's. Yeah.
Imagine hearing that. I'm out of here.
I've had plenty of friends say they've been out there and like heard it creaking and seen the shadow of him. I've never had anything like that there.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything at St. John's.
Crazy considering you're usually pretty...
Yeah.
You usually tracked.
Yeah. At the actual Kapunda cemetery, crazy. Yep. But St. John's, I've never seen anything.
Never down there.
Yeah.
See if I feel anything a little...
You know
anything,
what?
shit
Absolutely.
myself.
I was out there one day and I was going through, because there's some newer graves there too. I think newer for there is like 1980.
Oh, so still,
And I was walking through and there was this lady, she had rosary beads on her gravestone, but they were turned to face the back. And I was like, oh, that's really disrespectful. I'll move them around to the front. And as I moved them around to the front, they snapped in my hands. Literally left the cemetery, drove all the way into Adelaide to try and find somewhere that had rosary beads to buy them so I could go straight back and put them on her grave, because I did not want the juju of snapping someone's rosary beads.
Oh my God. This is the start of a horror movie. This is exactly what happens.
And I thought I was doing something nice by moving them around to the front, and they just, because they were like,
obviously,
sun was shattered.
Did you end up finding?
Yeah, they weren't the same, but I put them back and I like did the whole, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So I put them back like with the cross facing the back of the grave.
Is that so much protection stuff and you just like freaked out for life now?
I'm so sorry. So I put it exactly back where it was. I was like, obviously the cross was meant to be at the back. I'm really sorry. I hope they weren't blessed. So I left the original ones there, but I'd put the replacement there. So hopefully at some point her family went and were like, what? But realised that I'd done the right thing and replaced it. But yeah, so that's poor Ruby.
Poor little Ruby. Well, not
but Ruby, I wonder, like, for the reformatory to shut down immediately, that had to have been more than gallstones.
Yeah, they would have found something out in the background. Yeah. Someone said something. Because
there's no files. There's no files on who was sent there, of the people that were inmates there, of what they did there. Like, you'd think everyone would have a file. Okay, this person was naughty, so they went to the cell for a week. This one escaped. This one refused dinner. Like, you would think there would be like a school.
That was still owned by... like Catholic,
the Catholic Church, yep.
So maybe what they were telling the Catholic Church was one thing, and then what they were actually doing, like what they called it, labelled it, inmates, everything that they were calling it here in South Australia, was different to what they were telling the Catholics back, from wherever they came.
But I feel like back then too, if they'd said these are naughty girls and we're treating them badly, we're putting them in a cell with no food, it wouldn't have been seen as badly as what it is now.
Yeah. They'd be like, oh, you're just teaching them a lesson.
Yeah. So it had to have been something pretty bad.
For them to look at it and be like, these are children in there. Really.
And the fact that her death certificate was altered later, and it's all written, say, in black pen, and then it's edited in a blue pen. Really? So it's obvious that it was edited. Yeah. So there's definitely more to it.
More to it, yeah. For them to have to edit, that's... Yeah. I wish, like, some things, it's so hard because obviously it's so long ago. Not that it doesn't matter, but there's not people that are interested enough to want to know.
Yeah, and it's not like you can just go on a deep dive on the internet and find things, because
there's no
it was
files.
very easy to lose a piece of paper.
Yes, yeah.
So
for them to have had no records anyway of the inmates, it's not like you can find anything.
That's it. So all they're going off of is, one person filling out a death certificate saying she had gallstones and she accidentally died on the table.
Yeah, it's like,
Or
well,
maybe she had an ectopic pregnancy that wasn't picked up because they didn't realize it was a thing back then.
yeah, that's exactly another point.
Yep. Or maybe she did die in the attempt of an abortion. Maybe they attempted the abortion at the reformatory and botched it, so she ended up in hospital.
Yeah.
That's why they didn't say she was from the reformatory.
Reformatory, because they didn't want it coming back on them.
Yep.
Yep, because then they'll be like, well, it's an old girl's
Yep.
reformatory. So.
And then the second baptism, maybe that's you got to make sure that you at least get to heaven.
Yeah, another thing. I thought of that.
Yep. It could be stretching. It could be absolutely nothing. She may have had gallstones and died. And
then back then, obviously, we didn't have as, to what us seems like a little thing now.
Yeah.
Might have been a big thing. It just all seems sus. All the circumstances around it just seem too coincidental to...
And so in total, 3 girls died from the reformatory, but the other 2 girls both died in hospital. One had pneumonia and one had...
See, the whole pneumonia thing now is I don't know, just makes me think of Diddy.
Yeah, but yeah, they were both, there was no mystery surrounding their deaths. Their deaths were pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so it's just Ruby. Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, for there to be all the conspiracy and everything around Ruby, there's a reason there's conspiracy around Ruby.
Yeah, I wish we could... Not that I want to go on the dark web, but sometimes I wish there was things like this, hidden files or unsolved cases, and they had the answers on the dark web.
Yeah.
That you could just go in and... I just want to pick someone's brain about it and to know what happened.
It would definitely be amazing to know. But that was Ruby.
That was
Ruby. We need to go to St. John's and see if we can find her. So that was the story of Ruby Bland. And have you been out to Kapunda, to St. John's Cemetery?
Yeah.
And have you seen her?
Let us know. We'll post a photo.
Yeah.
To do with the story on Instagram. Let us know in the comments. Have you been out to Kapunda? Have you got your own scary stories?
And if you've got cool photos, post them and tag us in it so we can have a look.
Yeah, definitely.
That would be really cool.
That'd be nice.
For our whole 14 followers.
Yeah, tell us what you think. Just doing shout outs
in Yes Man, when she's singing the song,
and
she's like, I'd like to say thanks to thanks to the 14 guys of you that are listening. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, and we'll catch up with you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.